All right, so today we're going to take a trip back in time, almost 80 years actually, to a single devastating moment in Hiroshima, Japan. We're going to explore what happened on August 6th, 1945. But here's the thing, we're not just going to look at it like some dusty old history lesson. We're going to see it through the eyes of the people who are actually there. You'll see that their stories are the key to understanding why this one event still matters so much today.
Just listen to this. Land of hell, Hiroshima was. And that was a man-made hell. I mean, wow. That one sentence from someone who survived it, it just cuts right to the bone, doesn't it? It tells you everything you need to know about what we're talking about today. This isn't about military strategy or statistics. It's about a man-made hell and the people who had to live through it. So, let's dive in.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to break this down into 5 parts. First, we'll set the scene with a man-made hell. Then we'll experience the event itself in the day the sun fell. After that, we'll look at the fallout in the unseen sickness, see how it still affects us in an echo of the past, and wrap it all up with the survivor's plea. Sound good? Let's go.
All right, part 1, a man-made hell. You know, to really get what happened in Hiroshima, to really feel the weight of it, we gotta take a step back and look at the bigger picture. We have to understand the world war that led to it.
So how did we get here? Well, it didn't happen overnight. Let's run through the timeline real quick. In 1940, Japan teams up with Germany and Italy, forming the Axis powers. A year later, 1941, Japan attacks Pearl Harbor and bam, the US is pulled into the war. Now this is a huge turning point. By 1942, the US kicks off this top-secret mission, the Manhattan Project, to build an atomic bomb. Fast forward to 1945. Germany has surrendered. The war in Europe is over, but Japan won't stop fighting. An ultimatum is given, surrender or face destruction. Japan rejects it, and, well, that decision set everything in motion for what was to come.
Okay, so that leads us right into part 2, the day the sun fell, August 6th, 1945. And listen, we're going to put the history books aside for a minute. We're not going to look at this from 30,000 feet up. We're going to go right down to the ground and see this through the eyes of kids, actual children who were there that morning.
So picture this. It's a normal Monday morning in Hiroshima. It's 8:15 a.m. People are going to work, kids are on their way to school, and then a single American plane, the Enola Gay, flies overhead and drops just one bomb right over the center of the city.
Mikio was just 13 years old. He was just walking down the road, and this is what he remembers. I was alone on the road. Then I felt the flash. Everything I was seeing turned to white. Just think about that for a second. One moment you're seeing the world in color, and the next it's just gone, wiped out by a silent white light.
And then there's Keiko. She was only 8 and she was at home. For her, it was totally different. In an instant, the house collapsed, she said, and the dust made everything go pitch black. We had no idea what had happened. So you've got one kid seeing blinding white, another plunged into total darkness, just pure chaos and confusion. We just heard from 2 kids, 2 individual stories of what that moment felt like. But now we have to zoom out, because behind those stories is a number that's really hard to wrap your head around. 78,000. That's how many people are thought to have been killed, instantly, in that one flash. You might think that's the end of the story, right? The explosion happens, and it's over. But it wasn't. For the people who miraculously survived that initial blast, the nightmare was, in many ways, just getting started. This brings us to part 3, the unseen sickness.
The scenes right after the blast, they're just beyond words. One survivor described it like this. First, I smelled the burnt hair. Skin was peeling off and they were like rags. You couldn't tell if they were male or female. Can you even begin to imagine seeing that? People so badly burned, you couldn't even recognize them as human.
And this is where we see the 2 punches of an atomic bomb. First, you've got the blast and the heat, the stuff you can see, the burns, the collapsed buildings, immediate destruction. But then came the second punch, something nobody had ever really seen before, something invisible. It was radiation sickness. People who walked away thinking they were okay, days or weeks later, they'd start getting incredibly sick. Their hair would fall out. Many of them died, and no one knew why. This invisible killer, this was something new and terrifying for the world. The fear it created was just constant. Listen to this memory from a survivor. She said, I remember every morning when I woke up, I would pull my hair like this, and if it fell out, I would get very upset. That fear lasted a long time. Just think about that. Waking up every single morning and performing that little test, terrified of what you might find. That's a different kind of horror.
And if all that wasn't enough, the physical pain, the constant fear, the survivors, who came to be known as hibakusha, which means explosion-affected people, they had to deal with something else. See, the U.S. military censored reports on radiation sickness, so nobody really knew what was going on. This created a vacuum filled with rumors and fear. People started believing the illness was contagious. So the hibakusha, the people who had already been through hell, they were treated like outcasts. They couldn't get jobs, people were afraid to marry them. It was a whole other layer of suffering that lasted for years.
So, why are we talking about this now? It happened so long ago, right? Well, that's what Part 4 is all about. An echo of the past. Because the bomb that fell on Hiroshima didn't just end a war. It kicked off a brand new era for all of humanity, the nuclear age.
And with the nuclear age came this whole new idea called deterrence. It's a pretty simple concept, but it's also kind of terrifying when you think about it. Basically, it's the idea that countries won't attack each other with nuclear weapons because they know they'll get hit back with nuclear weapons. It's like a global standoff. You don't push the button because you know they'll push theirs. And this single idea has pretty much dictated how major countries have dealt with each other ever since.
So if you look at the numbers, things have gotten better? Kinda? Back in the 80s, at the peak of the Cold War, there was something like 60,000 nuclear weapons on the planet. I mean, just an insane number. Today, we're down to about 12,000. So yeah, that's a big drop, which is good. But 12,000 is still a whole lot of weapons. The threat is definitely not gone. And here's where it gets really serious. Right now, there are 9 countries that have nuclear bombs. But the most important part, the thing you really got to understand, is that the weapons we have today make the bomb dropped on Hiroshima look like a firecracker. They are so much more powerful.
And this is exactly why the last remaining survivors feel like they have to speak up now more than ever. Remember Mikio, the 13-year-old from the beginning? He said that when he saw Russia invade Ukraine, it was like a switch flipped for him. He said, no, I can't do nothing. I have to do something. I have to tell my story no matter what. For him, the past isn't the past. It's right here, in the news today.
Which brings us to our last part, and really the most important part of all of this. Section 5, the survivor's plea. What is it that these people, who saw the absolute worst humanity can do, want us to know?
This quote from a survivor named Kayoko, it really says it all. Remembering is our legacy. Before I die, I have to tell what I saw, because warning is the important thing. It's not just about telling a story for them. It's about passing on a warning, a legacy of caution for the rest of us.
And that legacy, that warning, it's already being passed on to the next generation. This is Kyoko's granddaughter, Violet, and listen to what she says.
You need to see the impact it's had on people, how it's hurt people, and just not bring that kind of pain again. She totally gets it. At the end of the day, this whole thing isn't about countries or politics. It's about people, and about making sure we never ever cause this kind of pain again.
If you go to Hiroshima today, you'll find the Peace Memorial Park. And in that park, there's a flame that's always burning. It was lit with a very specific promise, that it will only be put out when the last nuclear weapon on this planet is gone. It's this beautiful constant reminder that their mission, our mission, isn't finished yet.
And that leaves us with one last big question. The people who actually saw this happen, who lived through it, they're almost all gone. So when that last voice goes silent, it's on us. How are we going to remember? How will we make sure that the world never forgets what it truly means to push that button?